All right, you ready? Got your insulation. Good. Get a marking thing. I know I should have mentioned this in the stuff you need, but I thought it was pretty freaking obvious, all right? Get a marking thing. Get a cutting thing. Get one of the things I forgot to mention. This is a square metal stick. You don't have to use metal, but you're going to want some sort of square stick. It's going to be about as long as you want the PVC sections to be on the inside. I will show you this in more detail when we get around to it. Alright. Also, do you have your measuring thing? Your right angle measuring thing. Make sure you have that. Alright. Do you have it? Is it like mine? Is it exactly the same size and shape as mine? Good. Mine's bigger. I just want to establish that. I'm very insecure. Alright. First actual step. We're going to take our R10 insulation here and we are going to make a cereal box out of it using 2 halves. We're going to cut channels in the middle to put our PVC, which is going to form the internal backbone, where we're going to use either wooden spikes or rebar rods to hold this thing up so that it will stay up despite the wind. And it's time to choose your dimensions. What you're looking for at this stage is simply a square box that is roughly, more or less, what you want your tombstone to be. These sheets can be huge. You will have extra. You can play with the extra to make extra little add-ons, little pieces, fun bits to expand and expound upon your ideas. As you get more and more comfortable with this, you can start carving cool shapes and have some real fun with your tombstones. I'm going to just start off now and make the cereal box shape of a very generalized tombstone. I might get a little fancy with it later on, but this is a tutorial. I'm not going to try to show you do all the crazy stuff because I've only done like 3 or 4 of these myself. But let's have some fun. Here we go. Some of these come with pre-cut grooves, and my pink sheet here does. If you don't have these pre-cut grooves, then you got to cut yourself. Many of them, however, have the grooves, and all you need to do is just cut along them. Grasp, and you're going to give the bag a little punch, and it's going to break it pretty clean. Right there. You know, maybe we'll play this economically. We'll make a 2-foot stone. Not everybody's going to be able to do gigantic sheets. Some people are just going to be able to afford smaller ones. No problem. If you get a 4x8, you're going to have more than enough stuff. Guaranteed. This is where having the right angle function comes in incredibly handy. If you find the knife is a real pain in the patooski, then you can use the hot wire foam cutter that we're going to make later on to do this. And if you're intensely curious about that, go ahead and skip to that section. But the knife gives you nice precision cuts. And it's not as prone to unclean cuts as the hot wire foam cutter. Here's the base stone even. 2 sections. Ready to go. They're going to be put back to back. And we're going to want to make sure that they line up pretty decently. Alright. So what we're going to do first is we're going to be cutting in the channels that the PVC sections are going to rest in. And to do this best, this is where your square stick comes in. And the reason to use a square stick is purely for impressions, so you can see how, when, and where this stuff goes. So here's my base stone. I'm going to open this up. There's going to be 2 PVC channels inside here. How deep they go is entirely up to you. You're going to want probably at least a foot, which is roughly that distance, into your tombstone to hold it up. If you're paranoid, go 1.5 feet. Honestly, it doesn't really matter. If you're in the early stages of measuring, you can just use your whole stick, however long it is. This whole thing here is just going to serve the purpose of putting some grooves in that we can follow later on for cutting out the channels. So, PVC in hand. Stick. Decide where you want your internal channels to be. Do you want them close together? No, you don't. You want them reasonably far apart, but you want to give yourself some room on the edges to work with. So my 2 channels are here and here. That gives me plenty of space on the sides that I can come in with and have some fun and screw around. So I have 2 central-ish channels. If you're OCD, you can measure this and cut it into quarters and take the distance and go 1/4 of the distance in on either side. There you go. Square stick. Place directly vertical where you want it to be. You could possibly get away with a triangular one as well, but not round for this very reason. When I sandwich these 2 together, my channel has to match both my top sandwich piece and my bottom sandwich piece. If my channels are off, then it's going to set the tombstone pieces awry. And I don't want that to happen. So if we use a square section and we line this up, you know, if you had 2 of these, that would even be better. I don't, though. So my square metal piece is in there. These are lined up pretty well. And I am just going to mush down. And this is going to create an impression that I can follow as a guide on both halves at once. It's not going to be a hideously thick impression, but there it is. You can see it. And it's on that side. And it's on this side. As a safety measure, and I should have done this before, but it's easy enough to reset. I'm going to give myself a little mark. Oh yeah, it's easy to see. So I know that when I'm smushing my next one, the original won't come off. If I have 2 square markers like this, or 2 square smush markers, I can do them both at once and it won't matter. Get 2, for God's sakes, don't be like me. And smush it again. There's my 2 channels. Clearly depressed for me to see. Alright, PVC section has to go into these channels. So I'm going to grab my cutters. This is why you get the ratcheting, wonderful cutters and not a hacksaw. It's done. No little pieces everywhere. I love these things. Alright, these are going to rest in here. The internal spikes are going to go in the bottom and hold up the tombstone in the ground. And will not blow around. Grab your marky thing and use your marky thing to mark where the channels are going to be based on the impressions that you've made. and do this for both sections. If you screw up, who cares? It's going to be only a slight adjustment and a little bit more extra hot glue and maybe some plentiful foam extra pieces to fix. There we go. Our internal sections are marked. And now it's time to grab the Dremel and start cutting out our middle sections. I'm going to try to adjust the camera view so this is a little bit easier to see how it's done. There are, I'm sure, much faster ways of doing this. However, this is the way I do it. The other ways that I have tried have involved things getting very, very slashy with a knife, very imprecise. This way has never failed me and doesn't screw around. However, you're going to want two things. Number one, you're going to want your breath mask on because you're going to be making a lot of pink powder dust. If your eyes are sensitive, you're going to want a pair of goggles on too because you're going to make a lot of pink powder dust. And if you have a workshop, I hate you. Just, God, what's it like? But otherwise, if you're in an area where you really can't make a mess, you're going to want your vacuum really, really handy. You can clean this up afterwards, but I like to slurp it out right as I go along. So we're going to make some channels for our PVC pipe to rest in. This is 3/4 inch PVC pipe. This is a Dremel with a router attachment. I know I told you you needed the router attachment. God damn it. Alright. So what we're going to do here is we're going to set the router attachment to give us 1/2, roughly, the diameter of this PVC pipe. Right about there. Maybe a little more. Who cares? It's not going to matter overly if we screw that up. Just trying to make sure I can show it very well for the camera. Because the other half is going to be when we do the other side. And if you're a little long, a little short, doesn't matter. And we're going to be tearing this stuff out to make ourselves a nice channel in here, which I hope is highly visible and seems to be decent on the camera. Alright, so I'm going to kit up and start carving. So there's what you're going for. This gets you a nice, deep, even channel. It doesn't leave slashy little pieces all over the place, and you can pull them out quickly with a vacuum. I normally hold the vacuum in my other hand, but I wanted to make this highly visible. And this will make your channels. So I'm going to do this in more rapid succession now. Making small circular motions with your Dremel bit. We'll tear this up and pull it right out. I'm using the zip cut bit. Nothing fancy, and you could use a router bit, and again, there's probably other fun ways to do this, but this is easy, simple, and gets me a very nice, even channel. It's relatively quick, it's relatively easy. You repeat it with every one, front and back, and get your channel set up. Repeat PVC is going to be lying inside, fits halfway through. The other half is going to be there when the other piece comes over. I'm just going to do the rest of this so we get it done. This is probably the most arduous part and least creative part of the tombstone process. So, yeah, get it done quick. If you find a better way, please let me know. Now our two sections are done. There's minimal mess. Hopefully they line up even, but if they don't, it is not, again, a huge tragedy. Oh, look at that. Pretty much spot on. Boom. All right. This tombstone is ready to go. If you don't want to make your tombstones this thick, and I almost recommend that you don't, you can use 1-inch thick pieces and only cut a 1/2 inch in. Then the other thing you can do is, if that's not available or not practical, you can use a 2-inch piece like this, but set your router to cut a 1 inch in. So you can lay this PVC section in and then just take the back and take maybe a 1/2 inch section of foam and slot it right over the top to sandwich it in. Suffice to say, whatever method you use, you're going to want 2 3/4 inch PVC cores in here ready to go, embedded inside your foam. Some people have very, very beautiful complex mechanisms where they've got a stabilized drill that'll go in and make the holes. They'll then just shove the PVC in, glue it at the bottoms, and be fine. This is my method, but any way you can think of to get these PVC sections inside your tombstone cereal box, there's your first step. All right, so what I'm gonna do next is go in and we're going to lay and hot glue these 2 PVC sections in, then take some foam board adhesive and get these 2 plates stuck together. All right, here we go.